you so much for stopping by at Heavenly Glam Home. I hope everyone is doing well. Today we are going to transform this rather plain Jane footstool ottoman into something really gorgeous, glamorous, and beautiful. If you want to see how I made this cat condo with mirrored accents, then just keep on watching. We are going to use the flat side, not the side that falls down, to cut our hole for the opening. When cutting the hole, you want to take the lid into consideration so it doesn't overlap with the mirrored ring that we're going to use as decoration for the hole. We're going to use dinner plates from Dollar Tree for this. And I'll show you later on how we actually going to cut it out like this. Do not touch the ring with your fingers. You will leave all kinds of smudges and prints on there. So this is just a template that I use that I will handle, and then I'll cut a fresh one, for the final piece. Again, do not touch it when you're handling the actual piece later. The template, of course, doesn't matter. We're going to find the center, and then we're going to cut. Well, we're going to draw the circle first so we know where to cut, and then we're going to cut the piece out. I used a box cutter to cut around the circle I drew, and you will only be able to cut through the vinyl piece and the vinyl material and the foam underneath. As you can see here, the vinyl piece is off. There's a little bit of plastic, and then you have the foam. Now the board underneath, it's like a really strong MDF board. I'm not sure, but you will need something much stronger than a box cutter. I used the box cutter to get a starting point for the saw that I used to get that wood out of the circle. I also used a handsaw from Dollar Tree to get a hole started so I could use the saw that I use later on. Of course, be very careful when you're using this and hold it down firmly so it doesn't move all over the place, and keep your fingers out of the way. I used the Dowel saw, which made the job really easy. Here I'm taking the mirrored ring just to see if it fits properly. The best recommendation I can give you is to make sure that the hole is actually a little bit larger than the inside of the ring, to make sure it doesn't show when you mount it later on. These racks here are the best racks that I have found to clean glass, mirrors, just about anything. They are absolutely wonderful, and I'll leave a link below. So I cleaned everything up really well, and then I will proceed gluing this vinyl crocodile silver metallic material to the outside. I used Aleene's repositional tacky spray for this. It works much better than the permanent one. Then I lined the material up with the edge of the ottoman, and just make sure that you have about 1 inch or so for the top and the bottom to fold it over. Once I had my measurements, I just took a marker and drew a line and proceed to cutting the material. Then I went outside and used the tacky spray and glued the material to the ottoman. I cut off a little bit of the excess, and what's a good project without a cat helping you? She joined our home last year when somebody drove in the subdivision and just put her out of the car. Hard to believe that people will do something like that, but It's unfortunate. After we have the material on, I spray painted mine, and I should have done this part after I spray painted so I didn't have to cover the hole. But if you don't, then just go ahead and cut the hole. Again, I took a box cutter. This was a really cheap one, so it was a little bit difficult, but and cut the hole smaller than the actual opening, because you will fold it over around the circle and you need material for that. Then I cut little slits. Be sure you don't cut too far, about a 1 inch apart, because it is a circle, so the material would wrap around easily. Then I used some heavy-duty staples, and I stapled the bottom fabric to the bottom and then the top to the top, and I stapled the circle as well. This was a little more challenging due to the size of the staple gun, but it did work out in the end. Now you can totally omit this next step. Like I said, I spray painted mine because I wanted it a little bit more of an off-white color. So I only did the bottom part in the material, and then I spray painted the material to match the trim that I will put around the lid of the Ottoman. This is the spray paint I used, matte clamshell, and then the satin white primer by Rust-Oleum. Of course, I went outside and did this, but again, this is not a step you have to do if you already have the material that you want to use. Here you can see why you shouldn't cut the hole first, because I had to cover it, so it would be better to just leave it and then cut it after you have sprayed it, if that's what you're gonna do. I also spray painted the lid to match. And while that was drying, I proceeded to cut out the inner part of the dinner plate for the trim that we're going to use later on. You should be able to get these right now during Christmas time. These are from Dollar Tree. They come in a pack of 4. And I used my hot knife to cut out that circle. So be very careful. Wear gloves when you handle the plate so you don't smear it with fingerprints. And then just very carefully cut out the center of the plate. Here I'm just cleaning up a little bit of the bumps that happen when you stop to turn the plate, and here is the final result. I think you can use this for a lot of other DIY projects as well. Now we're moving on to the legs for the Ottoman. I'm using the Dollar Tree tumble blocks and Dollar Tree wood glue, which actually works really well. And then we're gonna decorate the legs with mirror tiles. I'll leave the link below. I started with putting 3 tumbling blocks down on the surface, and then I made sure that the width of those tumbling blocks fit exactly with the 1 by 2 inch mirror that I've had, so they weren't pressed together, just slightly apart. And then I added another row of 3 of horizontal to give it some stability, and I actually did this 5 times, so for a total of 15 blocks, wooden blocks. It would seem like it's too tall, but it is really not, because the bottom of the Ottoman gives, and 2 of the rows will actually kind of disappear into the Ottoman. After I completed each row, I made sure that the blocks were still lining up with the mirror piece. Now that all 5 rows are in place and have hardened, we're gonna attach the 1 by 2 inch mirror to the bottom of the feet. Although the mirror tiles do have an adhesive, I decided to add some extra glue for a stronger hold. I only put the mirror tile on 3 sides, not the side that would actually be facing inside of the ottoman. Now it's time to glue the legs to the ottoman. I used actually a combination of several glues just to make sure that they were on there really strong. As you can see, we got that little lip, so the top part with the wood will actually disappear into the ottoman. Then glue side down, I firmly pressed the legs and all 4 corners of the ottoman. Then it was time to cut the fabric that I chose to go around all 4 sides of the lid for the ottoman. I chose this beautiful cow print that I got at Amazon, and it was like $18 and some change for a yard at the time. I made sure that I lined it up with the top edge of the ottoman and also made sure that I had enough fabric to fold over on the inside. Then I used that same repositionable tacky spray from Aleene's, sprayed it on and started placing the fabric all around. Now it was time to cover up the seam, and I chose some dowels I purchased at Walmart to cover them with mirror reflective contact paper. I've had this for a while. I have to find the link of what I actually bought. Make sure that you take that protective coating off before you start rolling the dowel into the paper. I cut the paper into about 1.5 to 2 inch strip, then wrapped it around the dowel. The key to this working is you have to make sure that you use a new dowel. If you take the paper back off and try to use the same dowel, it will not work. So a brand new dowel, make sure you wrap the paper on it and do not wait to put it on the ottoman because it will unravel itself. So do one dowel at a time, stick it, glue it onto the ottoman and wait till it's completely dry. For some reason, if you put all of them together, I used 3 dowels and I staggered them to make it look like the metal legs on an expensive furniture piece. So just make sure you put it right away, let it dry on the ottoman, and then proceed with the other 2. I proceeded to glue all 3 on. Again, it's in a staggered fashion. 2 were lining up with the corner of the bottom end, and 1 was actually sticking over about 1/2 inch or so to give it that staggered look. Now I could have left the top as it was, but it looked a little unfinished to me, so I purchased this gray cord from Amazon, and I'm going to glue it around the perimeter of the trim. Let your imagination run wild here. You can use different things. This is one of those silver pearl strands from Hobby Lobby. I tried different things and I stuck with the gray cord because this is for our camper, and I didn't want it to be too flashy. I ran out of the Aline, so I bought the Gorilla spray, tacky spray, but honestly I like the Alines better. I mean, the Gorilla holds well, but it's more messy in my opinion. So I just went all around the perimeter and glued the cord around the Ottoman lid. Now it was time to make a bed for the inside for the cats, and I used this project foam that I got at Walmart. I had taken the insert of the Ottoman and matched it up with the foam, traced the outline, and then cut the foam the same size of the insert that keeps the Ottoman stable. I also purchased this rug from Ross. It was only $10.99, and that goes on top of the foam for a really plush feel. Now it was time to beautify the tray a little bit. I could have left it like that, but I had material left, and so I measured the inside of the lid just to be sure. Mine measured 14 by 14, and then I cut out the materials actually a little bit larger so it could go up the walls of the inner side of the lid. Then I used the tacky spray again to secure the vinyl to the inside of the tray. I did decide to cut the vinyl only to fit the bottom part, and then I decided to make a trim around all of the edges because it felt like it was going to be too bulky to do it all in one piece. Now that was done, we finally taking our freshly cut out dinner plate rim, and I sprayed some tacky glue, and I used some of the clear Elmer's glue to make sure it would adhere. It scared me a little bit at first because the glue was making like a strange film on the mirrored part, but as it was drying, it went away. So we are finally at the last and final step. I decided to take these mirror tiles and put a row of them around the inner perimeter of the dinner plate decoration. I used smaller strips, made sure I aligned, the individual pieces so it didn't look like an interruption, and just glued it all around the circle. These mirror tiles adhered really well, and it gave it a really cool look in the end. And here's the final result. I'm so in love with it. It looks so beautiful, but let me know what you think, what you would do differently, or if you would use different materials. Anyway, I would love to hear from you. Here's the one with the tray, and here's it is with the lid on as a footrest. If you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, comment, and click that notification bell. And happy holidays to everyone.